It would just be simply having the agent come in, relate the story that Alex Murdaugh told to 911 and told to law enforcement, that initial story about the unknown assailant, the fact that the investigation continued and additional information came to light that conflicted with that, and that he was eventually confronted with that, and then there's a recorded statement at the end in which he admits that, in fact, what he had told law enforcement was a lie. And so it would be a very focused presentation to just get from point A to point B for purposes of this trial and the relevance that it has to this trial. So for those reasons, Your Honor, we would assert that limited presentation is admissible for those purposes.
Please support, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
The state, and we agree that State versus Cartwright would be applicable to this situation. And it has 4 criteria about a suicide. They seem to think that the unmistakable nexus exists by clear and convincing evidence linking the suicide attempt to a guilty conscience about the murders. The facts are that he was confronted by the law firm on Friday, fired on Friday, and then persuades, I don't know if much persuasion was needed, Eddie Smith to shoot him in the head, thinking that it would get his son, Buster Murdaugh, $12 million in insurance money that would otherwise be excluded by the suicide exemption in his insurance policy. So all this is linked to is the financial crimes, not the murder. We're here trying to murder. And yet all the evidence, not all, but a significant amount of the evidence we've heard over the last 3.5 weeks has been about the financial crimes. This is guilty knowledge of the financial crimes, not the murder. And this under 404, 403 analysis under Cartwright would not be admissible. I'd further say this. If he's looking for a common scheme, that is, that when he's about to be found out or he's being found out, he would have killed Buster, based on his theory, to distract. This isn't a distraction, this is an end. And clearly, you haven't heard the taped interview, that he initiated from Detox in Atlanta, in which he explained he was killing himself to get this money for Buster because his financial crimes had been found out. This is 3 months after the murder. This is in September. It's not connected by time. It's not temporal under the 404, 403 analysis, and certainly it's not evidence of guilty knowledge about, I mean, his own statement would indicate it has nothing to do with the murder. It's only about the financial crimes. And he contacted SLED, and on that recording, myself, Mr. Griffin, and Mr. Murdaugh from Detox. He finally had detoxed and wasn't on drugs anymore. And he has a great detailed statement about Eddie Smith buying the drugs for him over a number of years, millions of dollars worth, and how Eddie didn't hesitate to shoot him in the head on the side of the road. I don't know how that is relevant. Now, maybe the drug piece is, but they've got statements from Eddie Smith about what drugs he bought and what he did with those. So we would oppose going forward on any roadside shooting evidence. We think the prejudicial far outweighs the probative, and we'd ask Your Honor to not allow them to do that.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, very quickly, I do want to distinguish again between what Mr. Harpootlian keeps wanting to argue about, and that's the prospect of there being some sort of suicide on the side of the road. Again, the state's real focus is not exactly on what happened on the side of the road. What's important, and this is, I think, different from a typical Cartwright situation, is what the defendant said about it. And the fact that he immediately tells this lie about him being targeted by an unknown assailant. And that is what directly connects it back to Moselle, and that's immediately what everybody assumed. The first thing that jumped in their mind is that connection back to Moselle. That connection and the next is unmistakable. So it's not as much about a traditional type of Cartwright analysis. That's not what I'm arguing here. What I'm arguing here is his explanation for what happened and the fact that that ultimately was not true. And that nexus, I believe, is very clear. I think the other one would be clear too, but that former nexus is the stronger one, and that is the focus of what the state is trying to offer here today.
And Your Honor, just briefly, this is character evidence, which is precluded under the only exception to 404, 403 Your Honor's allowed in is motive. Why did he do it? It's just incredible because if you put this up, you're going to hear from one of the SLED agents when he woke up in the hospital and his skull had been fractured, he had a brain bleed. This is when he concocted that story. I mean, he expected never to wake up. So, this was a scheme to draw. No, if there was a scheme, it was created after Eddie Smith meant to shoot him. Actually, if he'd been a millimeter to the left, his brains would have been blown out. He just missed, but knocked him out, fractured his skull. That's all I have.
Your Honor, those are not the facts. He's telling that story at the scene to people who show up. He's out of the gate. That's what he's saying, that he was attacked by an unknown assailant. There's an ambulance video where the deputy comes in, and that's exactly the story he tells. This is not...
I would concede he's correct. Once he realizes he's still alive, he tells that story. But obviously, he didn't intend to be still alive. In other words, it's not a scheme that was concocted at any point. The scheme, if it's a scheme, was concocted after he realized he wasn't dead.
Well, the financial evidence was allowed on the issue of motive. This evidence, I find, goes beyond motive, or is not evidence of motive, but more toward common scheme or plan. It does not survive the logical relevancy test, and it goes more toward showing the propensity to commit violent acts, which would cause it not to survive the 403 analysis. I believe that to allow this evidence is a bridge too far, going down this path of allowing essentially any and all evidence in. We have guardrails. The court is to place guardrails to keep things within a reasonable realm, and I believe this, as I stated, will be a bridge too far. It does not meet the logical relevancy test. I agree with the defense that it would be admissible perhaps if the trial was a trial on the financial theft issues, but not on the murder. So I grant the motion to exclude this evidence at this time. Of course, as we have seen, things change. And who knows?
Understood, Your Honor.
All right. Did we tell the jurors 10 or 10:30?
I think we said 10:30, Your Honor.
10:30. All right.
I said 10. Mr. Waters said 10:30. So if there's any acrimony here, please focus it where it belongs.
Well, I routinely underestimate the time, so the one time I overestimated.
Well, we tested the jurors this morning, and happy to say that they all tested negative, so we're in good shape with the jury. All right. Any other matters we need to discuss during this lifetime?
Yes, I just think Mr. Waters and I were talking extensively about when he's going to rest his case. We think that should be, or he thinks that should be, he thinks tomorrow morning. I'm projecting maybe tomorrow afternoon, but on Friday we expect to start our case. And to that end, if something were to happen between now and Friday morning, we are flying in experts and don't need to tell Your Honor how expensive that process is. So even if they don't finish, we may ask the court to allow our witness. It's a footwear expert. It's not anything of, explosive. If he's here and they can't finish by Friday afternoon, we'd ask the court at that time to allow him to testify out of order, simply to save thousands of dollars of him have to come back the following Tuesday. And I haven't asked Mr. Waters about that, but I want to put it on the record.
I'm certainly going to be within reason accommodating to the defense and things like that.
Great. I just thought I ought to mention it so it doesn't look like a surprise to the court. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else then?
Stand by, Your Honor. Excuse me, please. We have anything, Your Honor.
All right, we'll take a recess then for about 15, 20, or 30 minutes, or 37 minutes. The jury is here, so if you all are ready to go, we can start before 10:30.
If they're all here, that's fine. If I could maybe just have about 10 minutes to reset and 10, 15 minutes, and then we can get started.
All right. We'll take about 15 minutes then.
All right. can now be seated.
If you bring the jury. Very good. Thank you. Good morning. All right. Day number 18, state's case. I'll call your next witness.
May it please the court. Yes, sir. State of South Carolina, we call Special Agent David Owen to the stand.
Thank you. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
Mr. David, you would please, you see you got something there? Take your full name for the record, spell your last name, and move that mic or chair to where they can hear you best. Okay, Mr. John. Hold on one second. I'm going to have a think here. No problem.
My name is David Owen, O-W-E-N.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Would you please tell the ladies and gentlemen about Special Agent David Owen?
Yes, sir.
Your background,
Yes, sir.
where you're from, and your education and training that led you into law enforcement. Please.
I was born and raised in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Graduated from Orangeburg High School, graduated from Limestone College with a bachelor's in criminal justice. Began my law enforcement career in Orangeburg in 1996. Moved to Charleston in 1999, where I have been since, and began my career with SLED, South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, in 2015.
Have you worked different areas at SLED?
No, sir. My entire time in SLED has been with the Low Country region, which encompasses 12 counties. We do general investigations, assisting the 12 counties with whatever they request. Anything from public corruption, officer-involved incidents, violent crimes, property crimes.
And when you say assist local counties, I know what that means, but what does it mean in your world?
SLED is an assisting agency. I like to explain it as if you call 911 for an emergency, you're going to receive local assistance from the police department or the sheriff's office. SLED's not necessarily going to show up unless requested from the local police chief or the sheriff.
And is that done regularly, and has it been done regularly in your career where you've been called upon to assist local agencies?
Yes, it is.
And just as an aside, as we've got to know each other recently, you've got some relatives in Anderson that I knew in high school, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Small world.
Small world.
Let's go straight to June 7th, Special Agent. Were you on call June 7th of 2021?
Yes, sir, I was.
And how did you get specifically, how'd you get the call?
I received the call approximately 10:30 that night. I was in bed trying to go to sleep, and the phone rang and was told that I needed to respond to 4147 Moselle Road in Islington, Colleton County. That there had been the discovery of 2 deceased persons at that location.
And how long did it take you to get to 4147 Moselle?
I arrived on scene approximately midnight.
I'm sure it's been said, but it's 4147 Moselle in Colleton County.
Yes, sir, it is.
Now, when you arrived, tell these ladies and gentlemen what you observed.
When I arrived, there was multiple law enforcement and rescue personnel on scene. Of course, I had to find a place to park out of the roadway. Made my way up to the scene. My normal course of business, or the procedure, being that we were requesting agency, I locate the agency that requested us, this being Colleton County, and speak with the supervisors or detectives on scene and say, hey, what's going on? What have you learned so far? What do you need from us? At that time, one of my supervisors, my captain, Ryan Neal, was on scene, and he was already talking with Colleton, so I was briefed on the situation, what was discovered and what had been done so far.
And did you have a liaison, somebody that you requested or told to work with on the scene that night?
Yes, sir. Originally, as I stated, we were called in to assist. So I was paired up with Detective Laura Rutland with the Colleton County Sheriff's Office, and I was to assist her in any fashion that she needed.
And again, was that unusual for a local agency to call you in to help with the crime scene?
No, sir. It happens very frequently.
And when you got with Ms. Rutland, tell the folks when you were first at the scene, did you make observations in your mind of the scene itself?
Yes, sir. I observed the scene, kind of figuring out what's going on. Started walking the outside of the scene, trying to understand the lay of the land, figuring out if anybody had been interviewed already, what methods or avenues were being taken to try to figure out what's going on, secure the area, and whatnot.
And did you see the bodies and were all of Paul and Maggie?
Yes, sir. I was standing outside the crime scene tape, and what I know now to be Paul Murdaugh and Maggie Murdaugh, I knew that there was a white male and a white female, but they were covered up with a sheet. I was not able to see them, but I saw where they were.
Did you make any other observations of the actual crime scene there itself then?
Other than the placards or evidence placards that Colleton County had put out to protect evidence upon their initial arrival, I didn't go into the scene. Our crime scene unit had not arrived yet. I have a background in crime scene, so I knew not to go in and disturb anything until it was documented properly. I was aware that Colleton County had already documented or located and marked some evidence for protection purposes. So I just walked around the crime scene tape. I knew that there were dog kennels on the left. There was a big shed on the right with a large field behind it with another shed. And there were several people and several cars back behind, what I call back behind the crime scene from where I was standing.
And at this point, had you seen the defendant, Alex Murdaugh?
I was told that he was with the group of people behind, which was told to me to be some family members and some of his law partners.
And I guess you became, at this point, were you the chief investigating officer?
I don't recall how long, within maybe 30 minutes or so, my supervisors pulled me aside and said, hey, we're actually going to be the lead on this. So my Detective Rutland and my roles kind of reversed, and I became the lead investigator, and she was my assistant.
But y'all still working together?
We were still working together, yes.
Had you ever worked with her before?
No, sir. I knew her, but I had never worked with her before.
Did you think it was important to talk to Alex Murdaugh?
I did.
And can you tell the jury specifically how that came about?
Well, I was told that he arrived on scene and discovered his wife and son, and that he had made the 911 call. Being that it was his wife and son, and he found the bodies and made the 911 call, it was paramount that I talk to him. What was his observations, what's going on in his life, what's going on in Maggie and Paul's life, to try to figure out what happened. I still didn't know if it was, let me back up just a minute. Going into a death scene investigation, homicide investigators are taught to treat every scene as a homicide until determined otherwise. And that encompasses suicide, natural, accidental, or homicide or unexplained. So automatically I was treating it as a homicide, and I didn't know if it was or not. So it was paramount that I speak with Alex Murdaugh to try to determine what he saw, what he experienced, what's going on in their lives, to kind of help guide my investigation as it progressed.
And had the weather started to change about that time?
It had been changing and continued to change. It was raining intermittently as I was coming into Walterboro from Charleston. It would stop raining, it would mist rain, it would heavy rain. So the weather was also a concern that night, especially being an outside scene.
And that leads into my next question. Where did you request and where did you take the first statement from Alex Murdaugh?
When I met Alex Murdaugh, there was really nowhere else to interview him except the privacy of my patrol car, which was a Dodge Durango.
We all seen the video, and I'm not going to play it again. The jury will have that. But can you tell us where it's your car?
Yes, sir.
So we've seen the video. Where was the camera?
It was a body camera. It's not a fixed in-car camera like in most active patrol cars. But I clipped it to my visor right above me and just angled it towards Mr. Murdaugh.
Is that your practice to video when you're potential suspects, or do you video?
I video
When you
any.
can.
I video any witness or audio record any witness that I am able to do.
So you're in your driver's seat.
Yes, sir.
Where was the defendant, Mr. Murdaugh?
Mr. Murdaugh was sitting to my right in the front passenger seat.
And behind him,
Behind him was Detective Rutland.
okay, and to her left, if you will.
To her left and behind me was Danny Henderson. At that time, I knew he was an attorney, but I didn't realize his involvement other than an attorney. Later on, I found out that he was a partner and Alex Murdaugh's personal attorney.
And how did he get in the car?
Who got in the car?
I say, how did,
Mr. Murdaugh?
no, Danny get in the car?
I mean, it's common if there's an attorney present that wants to be involved in the interview or sit on the interview. I allow him to sit in on the interview. It's not an issue for me.
You said it was fine?
It was fine.
Okay. And I want to ask specifically about your observations of the defendant as far as his mind. Did he appear to be under the influence of anything, any intoxicant or anything else when you were talking to him?
I did not notice any intoxicants, whether it be drugs or alcohol. He didn't smell of alcohol. His eyes weren't, any dilated. They weren't bloodshot. He seemed of full body and mind, other than being distraught that he had discovered his wife and son dead.
Did you have trouble understanding his words?
No, sir, I did not.
Did he appear to have trouble understanding your words?
No, sir, he did not.
Were his answers to your questions subject matter appropriate?
Yes, they were.
Okay. And were they timely?
Yes.
And again, without going into the details, did he tell you roughly what happened earlier in the evening, how long he'd been at the house, when he left, and when he came back?
Yes, sir. We went over his evening.
And after this statement, well, before that, when you were out, before you got in your car, were you able just to look at him?
Yes, sir.
Did you shake his hand?
I did shake his hand.
But did you come up to him and y'all shook hands like that?
Yes, sir. I introduced myself.
What did he say when you introduced yourself?
How you doing? I don't remember exact words, but how you doing? I know you need to talk to me. That type language.
And could you see anything just from your naked eye? I know you didn't have a microscope, but could you see anything that appeared to be? How did his clothes look?
He had on a white T-shirt. I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary on his T-shirt. He had on green cargo khaki type shorts, and I think bright in color. I think later I learned they're orange or pink tennis shoes. I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary about his appearance.
After you took this statement, you and Ms. Rutland, did you want to take his clothes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you take his clothes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell the jury how that went about.
Well, it was coming close to the end of the interview, and I was going to discuss collecting his clothes from him, but he had received a call that his oldest son was arriving at the home. Knowing that he needed to go be with his son, I said, I'll catch up with you later. Go ahead. Shortly thereafter, maybe 10, 15 minutes, I went up to the house and told him I needed to get his clothes. I was allowed into the house. There were multiple people inside the house. When you walk in the house, there's a foyer. I walked into the foyer. Immediately to the left, there's some stairs going upstairs. To the right, I believe it was a dining room, and you walk into the living area or living room. Met Mr. Murdaugh again, told him I needed to collect his clothing. He went to what I now know is the master bedroom towards the left of the house, left of the living room, and he said sure, and immediately began to disrobe his clothes and hand them to me.
All right, so did you go to the bedroom?
Yes, sir. I stood in the doorway of the bedroom.
So if that's his bedroom, you stood right here?
Yes, sir.
And could you see him changing?
Yes, I did.
And but did you give him a little privacy?
I did.
And so did he give you the same clothes that he had on?
Yes, sir.
You're sure about that?
He still had on the orangish pink tennis shoes, green shorts, and white T-shirt.
And this is what's been entered as 419.
Oh, well.
And are those the tennis shoes that you saw the defendant Alex Murdaugh in and that
Yes, sir.
he
This-
took off and gave to you?
Under this light, it's more red, but, you know, I considered it orangish pink that night, but these are the shoes that I collected from him.
Do you remember the condition? I mean, how did they feel when you touched them?
I mean, they were a little damp. I mean, it was raining that night.
You said damp?
Damp, yes. It was raining that night, summertime, high humidity, so the ground was, there was a lot of condensation and water on the ground. And these are the bag, this is the bag that I would have put them in. My initials are not on them, but my handwriting says shoes 0140.
And
So that would, it was 0140140, which would have been the time that I collected the shoes.
Is that 1:40 a.m.
Yes, sir.
on June 8th of
Yes, sir.
2021?
Yes, sir.
Did you make any other observation? There appear to be any other stains to your naked eye on those shoes when you saw them at 1:40 a.m. on June 8th of 2021?
No, sir, I did not make any other observations.
If you'd leave your gloves on.
Yes, sir.
I'll show you what's been entered as 418 and tell me if you recognize this and does it relate to your testimony.
This is a bag that's sealed up, but I know that it's a T-shirt. It's got my writing on it with the time of 0141 or 1:41 a.m. Again, my initials or date are not on it, but I do recognize my signature or my writing.
You put 1:41 a.m. on that?
Yes, sir.
Now, had you packaged those clothes separately?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Why?
Again, with my experience in law enforcement, my experience in crime scene, anytime you collect a piece of evidence, you keep it separate so you don't cross-contaminate.
And that was the shirt?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is also contained in 418 that's been entered? Can you tell me what that is?
These are the shorts, 0141 in my handwriting. Again, my initials and date are not on it, but I do recognize my handwriting.
Could you open those, please?
Yes, sir.
Now, are those the pants that you saw defendant Alex Murdaugh wearing on June 7th, June 8th
Yes, sir.
of 2021?
Yes, sir.
And those are the same pants that you took off of
Yes, sir.
Alex Murdaugh, is that correct?
You want gloves?
Now, describe when you saw these pants on June 7th, June 8th, early AM morning, Special Agent David Owen. How did they look to you?
Green shorts. I didn't notice any stains on them. Nothing was very apparent to the naked eye. They appeared just to be normal, clean shorts.
And we've got these cuttings in the front. I know this. Those weren't there, were they?
No, sir. They were complete shorts. Those cuttings were done during processing, evidence processing.
I want to go back. I just forgot. That first interview.
Yes, sir.
At some point, maybe toward the end, I can't remember. I think it's toward the end. You kind of reach over and just do like this to Alex Murdaugh. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I consoled him. He was upset.
And that's just, you did that because that's you?
That's just who I am.
And when you got to the house and after you had collected these clothes, did you do anything else at the house?
I didn't do anything at the house. Like I stated, there were other people in the house, law partners, family members, people moving about. I did look around to make general observations. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Nothing seemed torn up or out of place. It was the first time I'd ever been in there, but it didn't look like there was a fight or a scuffle or, going in, being observant. I didn't notice. I went in through the front door, was the only door I accessed the house from. I didn't notice any forced entry or, when the door was open for me, it was opened as a normal door should. Met Mr. Murdaugh and collected the clothing. I don't know if I spoke with Mr. Murdaugh or someone else inside the house. I think it was Mr. Murdaugh. Excuse me. He had indicated early on in in the initial interview that he had attempted to contact some of Paul's friends, and one of those friends was Nolan Tootin. And he had indicated that Nolan was at the house during that interview. So when I went to the house to collect the clothing, I asked if Nolan was present. He said yes, he was, and pointed to him. I noticed that he was sitting on a couch in the living room. So I introduced myself to Nolan and conducted an interview with Nolan, again, in my vehicle for privacy.
So you had located Nolan Tootin in the residence and then conducted an interview with him in your car?
Yes, sir.
And how many people were in the house? We're into the early morning of June 8th of 2021, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how many people were inside approximately?
I didn't go in every room. I didn't see every single person, but 8, 10 people from first glance.
And had someone at SLED, you mentioned there was crime tape, did someone from SLED arrive at the crime scene where the two bodies were, and were they processing that?
Yes, sir, they were.
And did SLED and/or the locals have that secured?
Yes, sir. There were several investigators from Colleton County. 2 other investigators from my office, Agent Altman and Agent Wiggins, were there. My lieutenant, Charles Gint, arrived on scene, as well as my captain was already there when I arrived. So there were several officers, several investigators down at that scene.
And was that scene secured and guarded until all the potential evidence at that crime scene was collected, as far as you know?
As far as I know, yes, sir.
Now, there was also a vehicle down there. Did you determine where the defendants, if he personally had a vehicle that he'd been in that night?
Yes, sir. There was a dark in color Chevrolet Suburban down there.
What, if anything, was done with that vehicle that night?
Early the next morning on Tuesday, June 8th, once we completed the scene around the kennel area and sheds, that vehicle was secured and towed to the Colleton County Sheriff's Office so that it may be later processed.
So it was taken into law enforcement custody?
Yes, sir.
There's been pictures and testimony about the phone that was on Paul.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
once I left the house, our crime scene units, that what they go into a scene and they look for evidence, document evidence, and collect evidence before anybody really goes in to manipulate the scene from there, or alter the scene. So once a majority of the evidence, or all the evidence, not all the evidence, a majority of the evidence on approach to the victims were documented and collected, we went in and started investigating the bodies. The coroner was, of course, with us. And once we took the sheet off of Paul, there was a cell phone that was placed on his rear end and on his right side.
And if you'll think back to your first interview, you'd already had your first interview.
Yes, sir.
How did the defendant tell you that phone had got on his backside?
Mr. Murdaugh stated that, he tried to check Paul for a pulse, and he, tried to turn him over, but thought better of it. And when he did, Paul's phone popped out of his pocket. And Mr. Murdaugh had picked the phone up and stated that he thought of, not the exact words, but this is what he said, was he thought of doing something up with it, thought better of it, and put it back down.
Popped out of his pocket.
Yes, sir.
And what did you do with that phone?
Once it was photographed and documented that it was on Paul's rear end, I collected the phone. Our crime scene unit doesn't normally collect electronic devices. They don't process the electronic devices. It's normally the case agent or one of the agents on scene will collect that phone. So I collected the phone. When we collect electronic devices, we normally put them in airplane mode, disconnect any power sources, take out SIM cards. Once I collected Paul's phone, I attempted to put it in airplane mode, and of course you have to try to activate it. I noticed that it had a dead battery and would not power on at all. So I secured it as evidence in my vehicle.
You attempted to put it in airplane mode. Why?
So that any outside sources, if someone has your access to your phone, like your iCloud account or your Google account, if you have an Android phone, you could remote access and wipe the phone, or anybody could, or some of the newer phones you can use a location service, even though the phone is off, to find where that phone is. So we put it in airplane mode and pulled the SIM card out. But like I said, with the battery being dead, I couldn't put it in airplane mode.
Did Paul's phone become, or was it a significant piece of evidence in this case?
Yes, it was.
How long did you stay there once you got there? At the 4140 Moselle?
I believe I left about 8:30, 9 o'clock the next morning.
So you stayed all night?
Yes, sir.
And did the crime scene unit down where Paul and Maggie were stay all night?
Yes, sir.
So night becomes day, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Did you see anybody else at the scene that morning that you had an occasion to conduct an interview with?
Approximately 7 a.m. Y'all heard about C.B. Rowe, the farmhand, the employee of Mr. Murdaugh. He was the farmhand. He arrived on scene. We confronted him and said, "Hey, we need to speak with you." So earlier in the interview with Mr. Murdaugh, he said that CB had, or I call him CB, Mr. Rowe had not worked on Monday, that he had taken his father, and he relayed a story about Mr. Rowe having a conversation with Paul, where he was hired by FBI out of high school to be some killer operative. So of course that kind of piqued my interest, and I needed to figure out where he was on yesterday or even that night. So Mr. Rowe, when he showed up, immediately went into an interview with him, got his alibi, got his statement of his events on Monday, where he corroborated that he had to take his father to the hospital or to the doctor in Mount Pleasant on that Monday, and that he was not there on Moselle property.
And let me go back just a minute. At some point, the bodies of Maggie and Paul were taken away from the scene, right?
Yes, sir. The coroner took custody of the bodies and
that's
removed
the
them.
law. The coroner comes in and
Yes, sir.
takes custody, right?
Yes, sir.
And But prior to leaving, were you able to observe from your own eyes around the bodies of Paul and Maggie?
Yes, sir.
And how would you describe those?
Very gruesome, very bloody.
Bloody?
Very
So
bloody.
around the bodies bloody.
Yes, sir. And also around Paul, it was more bloody because he was on concrete and in a rock driveway. And it had been raining that night, so you add the water to the bodily fluids. It's going to make them run a little bit more or spread more. Maggie was on dirt, grass, so it's going to seep into the ground. So there wasn't as much blood around her as was under her.
And did you, and without going into what he said, I think he's testified, did you interview Rogan Gibson?
I did not interview Rogan
Was
Gibson.
he interviewed?
He was
that
interviewed.
morning?
He was interviewed on June 8th, yes.
Interviewed what?
He was interviewed on June 8th, yes.
Okay. So y'all are investigating,
Yes, sir.
working with the locals,
Yes, sir.
interviewing people.
Yes, sir.
Did you try to determine, or did you request anybody to check the videos in the area?
Yes, sir. Back up after interviewing Mr. Rowe, Dale Davis, who was the dog, took care of the dogs, also arrived on, and we interviewed him. Tried to get some information. Once we finished those interviews, our crime scene was done. We responded back to our low country office here in Walterboro. Collin County Sheriff's Office was there, 14th Circuit solicitors and their investigators were present, as well as most of our office and other agents that we called in, so we can relay to them what we had learned so far and what needed to be done. So we started assigning tasks to other agents in Collin County Sheriff's Office to go back out and start canvassing the neighborhood. Normally you would canvass the neighborhood when you're out there at night, and some agents were, but 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, most people are sleeping. It's out also the country. It's dark. You don't really get the lay of the land. So you go back the next day when it's daylight. So we sent Collin County out, and they went from one end of Moselle Road to the other, attempting to locate video surveillance, talk to neighbors, see if they heard anything, saw anything, having any problems with burglaries, robberies in the area, anything to develop a lead that we could track down.
You were searching for any potential killers.
Yes, sir.
Did the search of the videos in the surrounding areas produce anything?
No, sir. Not many homes are close to the road out there, and the ones that did, not all of them had video or video surveillance. The ones that did, that we saw, were at night, and you couldn't see. You can tell a car's passing, but you couldn't tell the make and model. You couldn't see the tag number, so it was really useless.
But y'all tried.
We tried, yes, sir.
And I think you said after Dale David, and he testified yesterday, when you talked to Rogan Gibson, is that when you first learned about a conversation where he may have heard some voices?
Yes, sir.
I mean, that morning you heard that from him?
But Agent Croft and Agent McAllister interviewed Rogan Gibson. I believe it was sometime mid-morning or lunchtime. And me being the lead agent, everything that they learned, they report back. So I learned later on that afternoon that they had interviewed Mr. Gibson, and that Rogan had relayed a conversation that he had had with Paul on the phone about an injured dog, and that Rogan had requested a video, and that during the phone call, what Rogan had heard in the background.
Paul, Maggie, and 99% sure, Alex?
Yes, sir.
Some point on June 8th of 2021 was the big house, or the main house, if you will, searched by law enforcement.
Yes, sir. Agent Croft and Agent McAllister, upon their completion with Rogan Gibson, they went back to the house, spoke with those that were present. I believe they spoke with Attorney Lee Cope, which is a law partner of Alex Murdaugh's, as well as Alex's brother, John Marvin. They told them while they were there they wanted to search the house for evidence, and they were given consent, and that search commenced.
Did we get Alex's phone that night?
No, sir.
Now, June 8th becomes June 9th. You're investigating, correct?
Yes, sir.
Working with the locals.
Yes, sir.
Everybody's getting leads to follow.
Yes, sir.
Did you have an occasion to speak with Alex Murdaugh again?
Yes, sir. On June 9th, I contacted John Marvin Murdaugh, Alex's brother, and stated that we needed to sit down and have a more proper interview.
What do you mean by that, more proper?
Right after a tragic event, you want to get as much information as possible. But you can imagine that speaking with somebody who's experienced a tragic event, they're not going to remember everything. Later on, once they have time, kind of memory reset, they're going to have more details. They're going to be thinking a little bit more clear. So we scheduled an additional interview, which took place on June 10th with Alex Murdaugh and his brothers to see what they may have known, what they may have experienced in their lives that may have led to this. I mean, you know, at that time, you don't have any information. You've got to go out and talk to everybody, with as many people as you can.
And when you talked, we've seen it, and again, I'm not going to play it again, the jury's got it, but that second interview, who was there?
With me was Alex Murdaugh again in the front seat. Agent Jeff Croft was sitting behind Alex, and Alex's attorney, Jim Griffin, who was at the defense table, was also in the vehicle too.
And I think this was a voluntary statement by the defendant, correct?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay. No question that it was voluntary. He wanted to give it, and you wanted to ask him questions.
Yes, sir.
And I have to because it just comes out. Could you understand him?
Yes, sir.
Did he appear to be under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or other intoxicant?
No, he did not.
Did he have trouble understanding David Owen when he was asking him questions in your mind?
In my mind, he wasn't. Again, if I wasn't clear, I think he said, "Excuse me," or say that again if he didn't hear what I said. And of course, I repeated myself. But it wasn't that he didn't understand me. It was more so that he didn't hear me.
And could you understand his words, and were they appropriate to your answer, to your
Yes.
questions?
Yes, they were.
And there's a colloquy between all of y'all and Mr. Griffin at several points on the interview, right?
Yes.
Did he appear to be clear in his mind, is what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And this was Hamady Day? Well, first of all, when you talked to him, that first statement, how long was it after the 911 call?
I interviewed him just before 1 a.m. on June 8th, and the 911 call came in on that Monday night, approximately 10:06 p.m.
Because that's
So
just a
it's
few hours afterwards.
Yes, sir.
Would you say it was fresh in his mind then?
Yes, sir, I would.
And this second interview was on what day and time?
June 10th.
And what time was the
Tuesday.
second?
1:30-ish. Hang on just a minute, sir. It began approximately 1:45 p.m. I'm sorry, 1:54 p.m.
First and the second interview, Special Agent David Owen, based on your being there and listening and asking questions, was the defendant clear about whether or not he had gone back down to the kennels after he went to the house?
No, sir.
Was he clear that he had not gone back down there?
Yes, sir.
Well, that was clear. He hadn't gone down there.
That was clear.
Can't leave the witness.
Did you have trouble understanding that?
No, sir, I did not.
And was he clear where he'd gone after that,
Yes, sir.
based on your questions?
I went to visit his mother in Alameda.
And when he came back?
When he came back, yes, sir.
And that's the 12th.
That was
Second interview?
June 10th.
10th. I'm sorry,
Yes, sir.
I was skipping it. Did you collect the defendant's phone that day?
I asked for consent to do a cell phone extraction. Dylan Hightower with the 14th Circuit actually conducted that extraction, and he conducted a logical extraction while Mr. Murdaugh was being interviewed.
Conrad's expert on phones, but what's logical extraction mean?
So there's two types of, I'm not a cell phone expert, but what I understand is logical extract, there's two types, logical and physical. Logical, it's basically the surface of your phone. You get your phone calls, text messages, emails, photographs, very basic information. The physical extraction, you get more files on the phone, such as orientation change, your steps, more intricate, more information with the physical extraction.
So on the 10th, working with the 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office investigator, y'all got a logical extraction.
Yes, sir.
And was the phone given back then?
Yes, sir. Upon the completion of the extraction, it was given back, yes.
But you're working with the local officials at this point, correct?
Yes, sir.
After that, did you have an occasion to talk with Marion Proctor and her family without saying what they said?
Yes, sir. I'm not sure the exact date, but it was sometime that week or the following week that I spoke with Marion Proctor and her husband.
And was Maggie Murdaugh's Mercedes processed?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Did y'all obtain search warrants?
Yes, sir, we did.
Would you dispute if I told you that was June 15th for social media, financial records, and to search the ponds of Moselle and surrounding areas?
No, sir.
And did y'all do that?
Yes, sir, we did.
You actually went out and searched?
Yes, sir.
How'd you search the ponds?
We had sled dive team come down. Once they arrived and kind of surveyed the pond, it wasn't deep enough for them to actually dive, so they just waited. They had hip waders on, so they were walking around basically on their hands and knees, searching the pond. There were some other waterways and ponds on the property that were searched, and I believe they went back the next day to complete searches. Also around that area, because going into Hampton, it's a swampy area. There's Salkatchie River, the Little Salkatchie River, those areas were searched. Also that same day that the ponds were searched, we did a land search in conjunction with Colleton County. They had ATVs, UTVs, 4x4s, and we were searching the property looking for any evidence that might help us develop leads or point us in the right direction in the investigation.
So SLED's working?
Yes, sir.
Working with locals?
Yes, sir.
And was the property searched again on June 16th?
Yes, sir.
And where was that?
That's when the dive team returned and completed their search of the waterways and ponds.
And it's also, there were some blackout cartridge casings and some shotgun shells that were seized later, correct, also?
Yes, sir. The pond that was, the first pond that was searched is by the shooting range or the shoot house across Moselle from the main house. So going back to June 8th, when Agent Croft went back out to the house and they conducted the search, he located some additional 300 blackout shell casings. We knew there was a shoot house by the ponds, so we went over there and located the 300 blackout shell casings inside the shoot house, as well as some shot shells from shotguns by the pond, and those were collected.
Did you end up talking with the pathologist?
Yes, sir.
Did you have an occasion to speak with where Maggie Murdaugh might have been on June 7th? Was any place she might have visited?
Yes, sir. According to the statement that Alec gave me, that she was seeing that she had been to Charleston to see a doctor, and he gave me a name. I did some research, and being from Charleston, I was familiar with the doctor and the location. So I went by and spoke with the doctor, and they said they verified that she was there that day. She told me they told me what she was wearing, which is the clothing she was found in that night. She didn't appear to be in any distress. It appeared to be a normal visit. I didn't get into what the visit was, but it was a normal visit for them.
And days are becoming a week, and you're moving on. Did you talk with the defendant, Alex Murdaugh, again during this time period?
A few times, yes, sir.
A few times.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, do you remember on July 28th meeting him at the Colleton County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, sir. I believe it was a few days prior to the 28th. He had contacted me. We still had custody of his Suburban, and he was seeking to have his Suburban returned to him. I indicated to him that it was inoperable. I was unable to return it to him. And he asked to get some personal belongings out of there. I believe he had some clothing and some golf clubs in there, and he was going on vacation with Maggie's family and needed his golf clubs.
So he called about his car?
Yes, sir.
I mean, that was the point of his phone call?
He asked about the investigation as well. He asked about the investigation later on the 28th when I did meet with him, and to let him get some of the clothing and some of his belongings out of the Suburban. He indicated to me that he had some questions and wanted to know about the investigation, and at that time I said, well, I have some additional questions as well. I said, I think I had another another interview scheduled. I said, I can't meet with you right now. Can we meet sometime tomorrow? And he stated no, that he was going out of town. And I said, well, go with your family, take a relaxing vacation. When you return, give me a call. Let's schedule something, and we'll sit down. A few days later, I believe it was August 3rd or August 4th, he returned my phone call and said, I'm back. Let's schedule something. And we scheduled a date for August the 11th.
So he called, asked about the case, the car. You said you couldn't meet. I could meet with you tomorrow, and he said he couldn't. He's going on vacation.
Yes, sir.
When he gets back, y'all agree on a date for another interview?
Yes, sir.
And specifically, what had you told him about that interview, or what had he asked you about that interview prior to this, prior to actually the interview?
About setting up the interview?
Yes, sir.
He just stated he had some questions. He wanted to know what we were doing, where we were at, if we had any information. And I told him that we didn't have a whole lot, and I had some questions that I needed clarification on, that I needed to sit down with him.
Now, and prior to this, had y'all collected a bunch of buccal swabs?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Why?
Well, when our crime scene agents, when they process the scene, they look for touch DNA. Of course, you can't see it, so you're just thinking, okay, where could somebody have touched? I know they swabbed door handles and they swabbed different areas. Evidently, there was the shell casings and the shot shells. There were no weapons found that night by the bodies, so we didn't have those to test, other than the shotgun that Alec had taken, gone and gotten from the house during the 911 call. And at that time, you know, I wasn't familiar with the Murdaugh family. I didn't know the Murdaugh family, but I knew that there was a large boat case. There was an issue where Paul had been charged or indicted on the boat accident and the death of Mallory Beach. So, you know, that's a catastrophic event for that family. So, you know, you immediately think, okay, well, that's something big, so that needs to be addressed as well. And, you know, I have friends and family over at my house all the time, so their DNA is going to be there. I knew that Alec had friends and family at his house all the time, especially law partners. I saw them there. So if I'm going to start collecting DNA, I need to eliminate the ones that I know were there. So you start going out to friends and family, talking to people in the boat case that were on the boat that night, trying to document their alibis and getting their DNA to make sure, if we find an unknown, is it them?
So you were trying to either rule in or rule out any other possible suspect?
Yes.
And who brought up the boat case first in this case when you got involved? When's the first time you heard about it?
During the 911 call. Alec mentioned it in the 911 call. He mentioned it to Sergeant Green when he arrived. He mentioned it to me during the interview.
And so you followed up on that?
Yes, I did. Or yes, we did.
We did. I missed all. I watched it, but some testimony with the pathologist about possible scenarios. What guns were found at or near Maggie and Paul when y'all got there?
None.
None?
None. Other than the shotgun that was by Alex's truck that he retrieved from the house, but there were no guns found by Maggie or Paul.
And that gun was given to you by Alex? Given to law enforcement?
It was given to law enforcement by Alec, yes, sir.
Okay, let's, did you have an occasion to talk with the defendant again?
On August the 11th.
Okay. And tell these folks where that took place.
At the Sleds Low Country Regional Office here in Walterboro.
How far is that from where we're standing or sitting right now?
2-3 minute drive. If you're from Walterboro any length of time, it's the old hospital, the old mental health DSS building.
They got y'all in the old hospital in the mental health building?
Yes, sir.
What time was it, the interview?
Interview began approximately 11:09 a.m.
And describe the room interview room itself?
I mean, it's plain walls. There's a table, a small conference table, basically about the size of this desk, and 4 chairs. Of course, we move the chairs in and out to accommodate the number of people. There's video cameras up on the ceiling to record any interview that occurs in there.
Are the video cameras visible?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you what's marked, states 511, 512, and 513. And just ask you, does that relate to what you're saying right now? Testifying to?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, 511, 512, and 513, I believe, without objection.
You're admitted.
And the same put in the Elmo. Actually, Judge, I'm going, out of abundance of caution, I'm going to withdraw states 511 without objection, I believe. I apologize. 511 is withdrawn with the court's permission. Please, this 512 and 513 I'm holding, just tell the folks what this is.
That is the interview room in our Low Country Sled office.
And can you see cameras in there?
Yes, sir. Up in the corners.
Judge, I didn't know if you wanted to take a break. We're going to play the interview now, which may be semi-lengthy, and I just want to bring that to the court's attention. I hope you don't mind me saying that.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We'll have you go to the jury room for a short break.
Take your seats.
If you'll bring the jury.
Jury is present, sir.
Very good. You may proceed.
Please, Your Honor. Special Agent David Owen, we stopped at, right before we were talking about the interview on August 11th. Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury who was at that interview? Who participated in that interview?
Alex Murdaugh and Corey Fleming.
And prior to playing the video, was this a voluntary statement?
Yes, it was.
The defendant was not in custody.
No, he was not.
He's free to leave.
Yes, he was.
Was there because he wanted to be there.
Yes, sir.
Did he tell you he wanted to ask some questions?
Yes, he did.
Did you tell him you wanted to ask him some questions?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, I have, we have redacted the last part of this video with consent of both parties. What's contained on 517 includes the video without the redaction, and we now offer 517, I believe, without objection.
So admitted.
Permission to publish, if someone would please. And before we get started, please, thank you, Santa. Who is Corey Fleming?
Corey Fleming was a defense attorney out of Beaufort area, also a friend of Alex Murdaugh's.
Did you know him prior to this?
No, sir, I did not.
Corey Fleming.
No, sir.
Thank you.
I'm good. Thank you. Just a big old heat. Big old tea. You want to use the bathroom in about 5 minutes?
All right, who's down to your right? Jeff Croft, who's testified. Jeff, you still in here? Is that here in the back?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What time is this?
It indicates 9:50. The time was incorrect on our recording system, but my notes, my report indicates it was approximately 11:09 a.m.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Judge. One of the jurors is requesting something, Judge.
This is the easiest that you can put down, so you can see it, and that box has it blocked on the other side.
Doing good, man. Can't complain. Ready to see some cool weather. Came back from the beaches. Oh, fine, yesterday. I had none of your life. Probably me too.
Great, if I can stop for 1 second. To the left of Mr. Murdaugh, I know we've got an inset smaller, but to the left of Mr. Alex Murdaugh, the defendant, is that Corey Fleming?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
It was brutal at my house last week. The air conditioner went out.
Oh, goodness
Yes.
gracious.
Are you spelling your name with 2 M's or one? One. All right, sir. Alec, I appreciate you coming in today. That's good. I understand. I know we got a lot to talk about. You have millions of questions. But before we get started with your questions, this has been going on for over 2 months, and we've done a lot of work.
I know you have.
And I've got some more questions that I need to get clarifications on.
Sure.
Okay. So we'll start with that.
Wait a minute. Hold
Yes,
on.
sir.
Maybe I'm mistaken. I thought we were coming here so you can update him on what's going on.
And I intend to do that as
Okay,
we go.
let's do that first.
Okay.
All right, let's do that first.
The update is I'm doing the investigation, and I have some questions that I would like some answers to. And I mean, certainly, if you know, I ask the question, if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to answer it.
No, I'm fine with that.
Okay. I mean, it's more clarifications of the 2 interviews you've already given me.
Totally understand.
Okay.
Just wait 1 second.
Yeah.
Wait 1 second. All right. I need for you to tell me, are you going to give us information? Or are we just here for you to ask questions?
I'm going to give you some information.
Right. Why can't you give us information first?
Some of the information that you're asking about are in my questions. And as we go through, you'll see.
Okay.
I don't mind it. I
I know you don't, but I can't. I mean, I'm a friend, but I'm also a lawyer, and I like to know what we do. I like to understand what we're talking about. You know, I need you to answer this question. Are you asking him questions to further your investigation, or are you asking him questions because you think that he's a suspect? I need a straight answer.
I am asking these questions to further my investigation.
All right. Does that mean that you're not asking him these questions as a suspect?
Go ahead. Say it.
Because I'm not comfortable with you asking him questions as a suspect when I came here with the thought that you were going to be telling him where you are in the investigation, what it is you've done, seen, uncovered, whatever. That's why we came here.
Well, let me respond to your question. It may not be a direct answer that you're looking for, and I've told Alec this when we first met. Any homicide investigation, you start with the closest person and/or the person who found the deceased. Both cases, that's Alec. Everybody stays in that investigation until we can get them out. And right now, because of the questions that I have that I need explanations for, I cannot get Alec out.
Okay. All right. That's a reasonable statement. I don't have any problem with that statement. That's fine. I don't read it, but everybody in the United States of America has an opinion on this case. And because I know everybody, I know it's a bunch of bullshit. I can't imagine that y'all are going to be asking about nonsense in the internet.
No. No. I mean, just like you, I'm aware of what's out there.
Yeah.
I have not read every article. I don't care to read every article because they're not doing the investigation.
That's
I
right.
am.
That's right. That's right. All right, well, Elliot, if you're comfortable and you feel okay,
Yes.
then that's fine.
Do
But I won't.
anything to help.
All right, that's fine.
So I want to go back to Monday morning, and you went to the office.
Okay.
What time did you go to the office? Who was at your house when you left, and what time did you go to the office?
We had been to a ball game that weekend. I don't remember exactly what time. It would have been somewhere between 8:30 and 9:30, probably.
Okay.
10 o'clock maybe at the latest.
Okay.
Something like that.
And when I ask about time, I'm not saying it was
Understand.
5:11 or something like that.
Totally
I need
understand.
ballpark,
That's
as close as you can get to it.
And if you need to know exactly when, there would be a keypad that will tell when exactly I went in my office
Okay.
that I can get for you.
Okay.
So
So you have a key fob to get in your office?
a card.
A card?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But a little bit. It was probably a little bit on the later side of that. I guess I know Maggie got up early to get out of there because she had an appointment in Charleston. Just don't remember if I left right after she did or I piddled around.
Okay. But, and I already know that Paul stayed at John Marvin's that night, so it was just you and Maggie at the house.
That's correct.
And I know when you were at the office, you were working on motions, and some of those motions you dealt with were for Paul's, the boat accident, or the boat case.
I'm not really doing the legal work.
I understand, but, you're Paul's dad, you're a lawyer, you're definitely gonna know what's going on.
Yeah.
So what were those motions? Did it deal with Parker's, or was it the actual boat accident, or?
It was the civil case.
Okay. What time did you leave and get home?
Earlier than normal. I'd say 5:30.
That's when you left the office?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What time did Paul get home that night?
Me and Paul got there about the same time. Maybe he was a little bit later than me, or maybe a little bit earlier than me, but it was close to the same time.
Okay. And y'all rode around the farm. I believe you said 2 different trucks, or 2 different vehicles.
Yes, sir.
What were those 2 different vehicles?
We rode in the white pickup truck, and we rode in the black pickup truck.
In either one of those, did you see any long guns? Take your time.
It's okay.
Did you see any rifles or shotguns?
I don't remember seeing any that day, no. We did have pistols.
Yeah, because I know you said you went target practicing.
Well, not really target practice,
Okay,
just shoot.
Yeah.
We rode around for a couple hours, just looked at everything. All the stuff Paul did on the farm. And we just spent, time together. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize.
Hey, you can do this? I can do it. wanted to look at the sunflowers because he was worried about the sunflowers. That was the first thing we looked at. And then we just rode. We just rode and looked at. I mean, we hadn't done it in a while. We just rode, talked, and rode, talked.
What you talk about?
Everything, you know. Just one of the main things, he'd been having trouble. His feet had swelled up, and we were worried about blood pressure and stress on him. And I mean, he handled all this stuff so amazingly, but I mean, we were just so worried about it. But I mean, we talked about that. We talked about the farm. We just talked about everything.
Has Paul been seeing a doctor for this feet?
No, sir.
Were y'all trying to get him to go?
Trying to get him to go.
And he was resistant?
Yeah, he had been resistant, but much less so after his feet swelled up. I mean, he'd been having all kind of little problems, but much less after his feet swelled up.
As parents, I'm sure you and Maggie stayed on him about going. How did he respond to you?
To going out?
No, going to the doctor.
He didn't.
When y'all talked about it.
He's very resistant. Very, very resistant. I mean, we talked to him about seeing a doctor, about the stresses of everything with the boat wreck. He didn't think he needed to do that. I mean, we tried to watch him really closely. But he was resistant.
What time did Maggie get back home that night?
Later. I'd say probably, best I can tell, a couple hours after us, after we got there.
When you and Paul returned back to the house, was Maggie there?
I can't remember if Maggie came by the shed when Paul and I were up there, or if we met her at the house. But, you know, it's not unusual for her, if we're messing around, for her to swing through up there.
Mm-hmm.
But Maggie was supposed to be coming home. I've since found out she was worried about me, and me worried about my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so she came home.
So at that point in the interview, she said, did he tell you she came home because she was worried about his dad?
Yes.
Basis for the objection.
Leading, he just repeating what the jury just heard on the video.
Yes, sir.
God, I can play it and come back and ask him to clarify that, that's all. Go ahead, please.
But Maggie was supposed to be coming home. I've since found out she was worried about me, and me worried about my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so she came home.
Where was she going to stay that night?
At Eddistow. We were having work done down there. And I wasn't 100%, but it's pretty well she was going to stay at Eddistow.
So it kind of surprised you that she came back?
That didn't totally surprise me. She'd let me know earlier that she was coming home. But then I found out later why she came home.
She was concerned for you?
Sir.
What time did y'all sit down and eat dinner?
Not too long after that. Blanc had made dinner. And so the three of us ate dinner together.
What was the conversation around the dinner table?
Normal. Regular stuff. I mean, I can't tell you exactly, but
How was Maggie's appointment in Charleston that day?
I think it had gone good. We didn't really get the chance to talk about it in detail. She's been having a couple little medical issues. I can't even remember which one. It wasn't anything huge. I can't remember exactly which one she went for.
And after dinner, Maggie and Paul went to the kennels, or?
You know, I don't know exactly how that went. I stayed on the couch and I dozed off. And then I got up.
Did you watch TV that night?
I know the TV was, I believe the TV was on. But I wasn't watching it, you know. I mean,
Can we stop right there, please? And I'm not going to ask you to repeat that, but this next question regarding a tree video, had you confronted him with that before?
No, sir, I had not.
Okay, please go ahead.
There is a video on Paul's phone of you and him on the farm that night, and you were in khaki pants and a dress shirt. You were playing with a tree.
I don't remember playing with a tree.
Yeah, I guess there was a tree sapling or something that had fallen over or bending over, and you were trying to get it to stand up. But I mean, the question in that is, when I met you that night, you were in shorts and a t-shirt. At what point in that evening did you change clothes?
I'm not sure. It would have been,
Before dinner or after dinner?
no, it would have been, what time of day was that? I would have thought I'd already changed.
There is not a time.
Is he asking you now what time that picture was?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm staff on it because there's so many posts, but I want to say it looks to be about dusk. So that would have been 7:30, 8 o'clock.
I guess that changed when I got back to the house.
Earlier when we spoke, and you talked about waking up from your nap and going to check on your mother, and you tried to call Maggie and you tried to call Paul, and then you sent Maggie a text that you were going to check on your mother. You also told me that Maggie didn't normally go with you to check on your mother, but that she might ride that night. Did you go by and check on her?
Go by and check on my mom?
Maggie, before you left to go?
No, I didn't.
With her not responding to you, and thinking that she might ride with you, why didn't you?
I don't remember having plans that Maggie was going to ride with me. But maybe she had told me that she was that night. I don't recall that. I don't remember that specifically, but it wasn't. She didn't normally go with me. It's not like we had plans that she was going to ride with me, or that she was going.
Here they are. These are just some maps that I pulled off of Google.
Okay.
What route did you take from Moselle to your mom's?
I would have gone to the right on Moselle Road, 63, into Barnville, turn left on the road, right before 278, 601, and then in front of the school, turn right. That's how I believe I went.
You said right on Moselle to 63.
No, sir, right on Moselle.
Yeah.
The normal way is right on Moselle to Dobson Road.
Okay.
Dobson Road to 63. 63 into Barnville. Left on whatever the road is that goes to the school. Right. And then either 63 or left on the road that goes down and then on 63.
How often did you go visit your mother that late at night?
I mean, it wasn't infrequent. It wasn't all the time. I mean, visit her, all times a day.
Just checking on her, especially with your dad being sorry.
She had been having a particularly, she's got Alzheimer's really bad, or pretty bad. And she had been particularly agitated. With him not being there, and checked on her more in the days and weeks following my dad's passing than, otherwise, but several times a week, any time.
How long would you say you were at your mom's that night?
45 minutes, an hour.
Had you talked to Shelley Smith at this point?
She had been interviewed, yes. I had not spoken with her by that time.
45 minutes to an hour.
Yes, sir.
Please go.
You took her back home. Did you make any stops on the way?
On the way there,
On the way to your mom's or on your return trip back home?
stops. No, I didn't go anywhere. I went straight there. I did not. No, sir.
And earlier in the day when you were down at the shed in the kennels with Paul, did y'all discuss any injuries to any dogs?
Did he and I? No, but Rogan Gibson told me about the dog's tail, and somebody saying his leg was broken.
Stop it, please.
Which one's his dog?
You turn up Mr. Owens's volume.
Video.
Yes. Or turn up the volume.
Any dogs?
Did he and I? No, but Rogan Gibson told me about the dog's tail. And somebody saying his leg was broken.
So right here in the interview, your question was, did Paul tell you that? So did he deny that he'd had a conversation with Paul about that?
He never said he had a conversation.
What if anything did he say about whether he'd had a conversation with Paul about that?
He didn't indicate that he had a conversation with Paul. He said he had a conversation with Rogan Gibson.
That he'd heard that from Rogan?
Yes, sir.
Which one's his dog?
It's a chocolate puppy, I think.
Okay. Was the leg broken?
Not that I know of.
I can certainly see why something might be wrong with his tail, because when I was out there, he was chasing his tail and looking through the fence and trying to grab it.
Yes,
So that was puppy energy. When you got back to Moselle, which driveway did you enter?
I went into Brick Gates.
And Maggie and Paul weren't there. Were there vehicles at the house?
Yes, sir.
How did they get down there that night?
I was hoping you were going to be able to tell me that.
The only thing that I can come up with is that black truck. Is that Buster's old black truck?
Yes, sir.
Does it normally stay down at the farm, or does it stay at the house?
Both.
Both. Did Maggie ever walk down there?
Maggie walked down there a lot. But Paul, I mean, if you showed me some proof that Paul walked down there that night, I would be surprised. Absolutely surprised.
Well, thinking about Paul's health concerns, do you think Maggie could have gotten him to walk that night? Say, come on, let's walk with me this one time.
You know, it's possible, but again, that would be highly, highly unusual. He would have talked her into riding. Been highly unusual for him to walk.
So when you were at the kennels, you were just down there with Paul. And you left and went back to the house for dinner.
You know, I mean, Paul and I were just knocking around up at the shop, the shed, the kennels, and just the whole property. And that was before dinner, yes, sir.
And you didn't go back down there after dinner until you returned trip from visiting your mother?
Yes, sir.
That's it. Keep going.
I've got information that Paul was on the phone.
Had you confronted him with what you're about to ask him prior to this?
No, I had not.
And the question you had just asked him, did that deal with whether he went down to the kennels or not after supper?
Correct.
And he said he had not.
He had not.
And Maggie was heard in the background. And you were heard in the background. And that was prior to 9 p.m.
I heard Rogan Gibson ask me if I was up there. He said he thought it was me.
Was it you?
At 9 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
No, sir. Not if my times are right.
Who do you think it could have been?
I have no idea.
And Rogan's been around your family for pretty much all of his life.
Oh, absolutely.
And he recognizes your voice, and you have a distinct voice. Do you think of anybody else that has a voice similar to yours that he may have misinterpreted?
No, sir. I mean, you know, when we were talking, he had asked me that, so, and I mean, he had told me that he thought I was up there.
Did that surprise you?
Yes, sir.
So when you returned back to the kennels, when you returned home from your mom's, where were the dogs?
They were like they were when I didn't put dogs up.
Okay.
So
they weren't running loose?
However they were.
Okay. At one point in the 911 call, you say here, like you're talking to somebody else or something else.
I say here?
Here, yes, sir. So the dispatcher is asking you if they're breathing, and you said no. And she asked did you see anyone else in the area, and you said no. She asked about guns near them, and you said no. And then you kind of stutter and start moving around, and you said here.
I don't have any memory of saying that. I guess I'd have to listen to it you know, but I don't recall a dog being out. I'm certain that there was not a dog out. You know, I mean, there's other things people have told me about that 911 call that I don't remember. I don't know here. Like I was calling a dog.
Calling a dog, talking to somebody else. I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
Yes, sir. And I mean, that obviously was nobody else out there.
Okay.
And I'm certain that there was not a dog loose. But I don't remember saying anything about Buster would know. Something about threats. I was asked about that later. If I had information about, or if Buster had information about threats that I had said he would know.
Have you learned anything new about any threats against Paul or your family?
Nothing really new, no sir. Outside of things that Randy's told you, or you know, there was just so many things on the internet that, you know, just but nothing new, no sir.
So during the 911 call, and we also talked about that that night, you returned back to the house to get a shotgun.
Yes, sir.
What door did you enter?
The best that I can remember, I went in the side door, and I went straight to the gun cabinet.
Were you focused on any particular shotgun, or you just grabbed one?
I just grabbed one.
How do you normally load your shotguns? Avid hunters load shotguns special ways, different types of munitions, and I'm just asking you how you load yours.
I mean, I normally put it in the chamber and push the button.
What type of shot do you load?
All kinds. I mean, I've loaded bird shot, buck shot, slugs, skeet shot.
At the same time? I mean, would you load like a bird shot and a buck shot in the same load?
Not normally. I mean, normally you're putting in, you know, a load for whatever you're hunting.
Mm-hmm. The reason I'm asking about that, the shot shells that we recovered that night, one was a turkey load, one was a buckshot.
I understood that.
The shotgun that you had with you that night, there was a bird shot and a buckshot. When Jeff went back the next day, I'm not sure which attorney it was, pointed out that there had been a shotgun laying on the pool table that he had put away, and pointed out the ammunition that was with that, and it was a buckshot and a bird shot. And then the shotgun that we took for potential comparison, it was also loaded with a bird shot and a buckshot. So I have all of these consistent loads along with what's that in the feed room. I call it the feed room at the kennels. Is that what you call it?
That's
okay.
Good enough.
Okay. If I say feed room, I just want you to know what I'm talking about.
The night I grabbed the shells that I could get my hands on, I don't, you know, I had no idea exactly what I had.
Okay. Also, when we talked, I asked you if it was normal to keep guns down at the kennels, and you said you would have to check. Have you been able to check to see what was missing from your collection?
I have. Yes, I know what's missing from what I believe is missing from our guns.
Okay, and what are those?
There's 3 guns that I think are missing.
Okay. And what kind of guns are those?
It would be a Benelli shotgun, a Browning shotgun, and a pump shotgun.
The Benelli and the Browning, are they pump or autos?
The Benelli and the Browning are automatic.
And the pump shotgun, what brand is that?
I believe it's a Remington, but I'm not positive.
Are they like standard brown and black, all black, or camo?
The Benelli is black. The Browning is camo, and the pump is camo.
Would you have those serial numbers recorded anywhere?
I don't have them recorded, but I'm sure. I don't know where the pump shotgun exactly came from, but I should be able to have the Benelli and the Browning.
Okay. Because we don't know if they're stolen or where they are. So I really can't get them entered into NCIC. But
go ahead.
But I could alert the ATF to where if that gun is run, that there would be an alert on it, and it would get me at least back to the gun and the person that may have had it.
Absolutely.
So if we could work on that and get those as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
You said the Benelli's black, the Browning's camo, and the pump is camo?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The Browning is a brown camo, and the pump is a green camo. And, you know, I understand also that a 300 was used that night. And I know there's been some I understand John Bedingfield said he only had 2 of those, one of which was lost 3 a long time ago, but I'm telling you, now I am certain that we replaced that gun. All right?
Actually, John knows that he sold Maggie a 3rd gun.
Okay. Okay.
And the story was that she was supposed to let you know that she paid for it for you to go sign the paperwork. And that never occurred.
Okay. So that's why there wasn't a number?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, he has the number. He just doesn't have a final sale on the ATF paperwork.
Okay. That was replacing the one that
Paul lost, yes.
That's correct.
And both of those 300s, those serial numbers are with the ATF and flagged in the system. So when they pop up, it'll get me to those.
Okay.
And that's, we've talked about the shot shells. So the cartridge casings were 300 blackout cartridge casings that were found by Maggie. There were also cartridge casings found by your house, by the side door to the gun room, and at the shooting range.
You're now asking him about shell casings that were found by Maggie. That's Maggie's body, correct?
The cartridge casings found by
Cartridge
Megan, yes.
Had he ever been confronted with this information prior to right now that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
I believe he was, but not by me, I don't think.
Maggie. There were also cartridge casings found by your house, by the side door to the gun room, and at the shooting range.
Okay.
And the ones by the house and some of the ones found at the shoot range are confirmed matches to the ones found by Maggie.
Okay.
So, which gives another concern. I've got the same load as the shot shells in multiple guns and 300 blackout that match ones found on your property.
So you now believe that those guns, that Paul's guns were used?
Yes.
Okay.
And missing.
And I understand that somebody had seen that gun recently, but, and I'd asked Buster about it. I believe that gun has been gone since back before Christmas.
Mm-hmm. No one recalls Paul's first 300 going missing around Halloween at a party at Hampton.
Halloween of 2020?
When did y'all?
No, that was
It was
years.
Yeah, it was whatever Christmas he got it. So it was 17. Christmas of 17. So it was the Halloween after in 18 is when Nolan believes it was taken out of Paul's truck. There was it would take me a while to find those notes, but Mark Williams or Matt Williams is a family friend, and I may have the name wrong, but there was hundreds of people at this Halloween party. Nolan says adults were there, kids were there, and Nolan knows that the gun was in Paul's truck when they got to the party, and when they went to leave the party, it was gone. So that's the timeline on when that gun goes missing.
Okay. I knew it had been a while.
And then I think in April of 19 is when. April of 18.
Christmas of 16, January
Okay.
17
Okay.
is when they did the
Gotcha.
work.
Gotcha. Another part in the 911 call, you made the comment, I should have known. And the questioning that surrounded, dispatcher's asking, is anybody else supposed to be at the house? And you said, no ma'am, please hurry. And she says, we're getting somebody out there to you. And your next comment was, I should have known. What are you referencing in that statement?
I don't remember saying that, but I guess, all the threats and, and I had been convinced it just was something to do with the boat wreck and, all of that.
Did Paul ever get physical with you? Ever get into a heated argument and get physical?
One time, a little bit where he wouldn't listen to me.
Did you ever get physical with him?
No, sir.
How about Maggie? Did Paul get physical with Maggie?
No.
Sure, she probably wanted to at times.
I'm sure she wanted to with all of us.
Yeah.
And the one time Paul did that, he had had too much to drink, in a very isolated incident.
Where was that? Was that at Moselle or Edisto?
That was at Moselle.
So that was pretty recent?
No, sir. It had been a while.
When you turned Paul over and his cell phone popped out and you picked it up and your statement was something like, I thought about doing something, but then I put it back down. And that was the interview, our first interview. What were your intentions with the phone?
I don't know. When I went up to him and the phone came out, I don't remember having intentions of doing anything with the phone.
Did you say when I went up to him, the phone came out?
Yes. Phone popped out when you told him for interview.
Okay, thank you.
You got anything real quick?
Going back when y'all ate dinner together after Miss Maggie got home and you and Paul got back from riding around.
Yes, sir.
Can you estimate about how long y'all would have been at the dinner table or ate at the dinner table?
It wasn't any long drawn out dinner. Just
Just a guess. You said there was conversation at the dinner table, but
15, 20 minutes. However long it takes to. Best guess.
okay. David asked you just earlier about when y'all were riding around the farm, and you said y'all had the pistol in the truck. Y'all had shot a few times, really not target practice, but shot a few times. You said that you had on that day you didn't see any long guns, rifles or shotguns in the vehicle. Prior to that, how long prior to that do you recall seeing guns or any guns in that vehicle?
Paul always had guns.
Okay.
So, it was very unusual for Paul not to have guns.
And when you say gun, is it rifles or shotguns or
Everything.
both? Okay.
Yes, sir.
his truck that he normally drove, I believe it was the Platinum, went into the shop that Friday prior to. I think Mark Ball went and got some video from Jimmy Butler's that shows Paul dropping the truck off and not removing anything from it. So basically, he would have taken the rifles out at home. Do you know what he did with those rifles? If he would have put them in a different truck, or if he put them in the house, or would he have? So the truck that he drove, where was it parked on that Friday? So where would he have swapped everything out?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where the truck that he drove on Friday. What truck did he swap out from?
I think when he went to Charleston, Dale said that he helped hook up the boat to one of the white Fords. And I know one's a gas and one's a diesel.
So it wouldn't have been the gas truck going to Charleston. I'm not sure. So this occurred the Friday before everything happened?
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure. On Friday, I had gone to stay in the hospital with my dad. I don't believe that I saw Paul. On Friday.
When did y'all go up to Columbia?
On Saturday.
Why didn't Paul go with y'all?
You know, I mean, Paul, he didn't, he liked to go to sports when there was a crowd, but that wasn't his thing to go.
Is that always how it's always been, or because of the boat incident?
No. I mean, he wasn't into ball as much.
One thing that I'm trying to understand is your timeline. You said you probably went to the office 8:30, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and you left early around 5 or 5:30. And there's been some other timelines or times that we've talked about and you can't quite remember what the times are or what time of day it was. When the dispatcher asked you when was the last time you saw Maggie or talked to Maggie, you said an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. To me, that's, a set, without thinking about it, you rattled off that time. We're sitting here trying to figure out a timeline.
Your question was, you told the dispatcher hour, 2 hours ago?
Hour and a half to 2 hours.
Hour and a half, 2 hours. What time was the 911 call?
10:06 p.m.
Hour and a half, 2 hours prior to that.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
And you're having trouble coming up with a specific time.
Oh, man, that's fair.
Tell me again what I said to the dispatcher.
You said an hour and a half ago, probably 2 hours.
And what time was that?
That was when you were on the phone, and the 911 call was made at 10:06. So given 2 hours back, that would have been 8.
I mean, I think that's probably about, I think that's probably about right. So what, you believe I'm giving you an inconsistent answer?
No, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around it when I'm asking you what time you went to the office that day, what time you got home.
Can I ask you a question? Yes. At this point in the investigation, did you have the video back from Paul's phone showing the dog at the kennels?
No, sir, I had not.
You're saying 5 to 5:30. I've got the card readout from the law firm, and it shows you going in at 5:30.
Going in the door?
Yes, sir. And Randy says when he left about 6 o'clock, you were still there. So the times aren't matching up. And I'm just trying to get I'm just trying to get an understanding of why.
I believe I left, so that's not the first time I was at my office that day.
There were several readings, but your card wouldn't work. Somebody actually had to let you in.
Okay.
But I've got your card opening the door at the law firm at 5:30. And then Randy saying when he left at 6, you were still there. I'm trying to understand.
You know, I left the office earlier than I normally do.
What's your normal time to leave?
I mean, it's not unusual for me to be there till dark. You know, I try to get home when Maggie's home, before dark.
She don't like staying out there by herself in the dark.
That's right. So, if it was 5:30 or 6, I don't think I was still there at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
But, if I was, it wasn't long after that.
Okay.
So, I believe that I went straight home. So, my car, have y'all been able to get Chevrolet to download my?
We're still working on that.
Okay.
That's a long process.
Well, I mean, I got home early enough for Paul and I to ride the property for a substantial length of time. More than an hour. I thought probably a couple of hours that we were together, but somewhere.
Did you go down in the river?
We rode down all the roads. I believe that we rode all over.
Okay.
We rode all over.
Have I been able to answer some of your questions? I know you probably have more. But with my questionings, trying to get some things cleared up, have I given you some answers?
Well, I do know more than I did, for sure. So, yes, some of those questions have certainly, yes, sir, been answered.
What other questions do you have that?
I would like to know exactly what happened.
Me too. The best that I've been able to put together.
Tell me, it looks like. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I believe Paul was shot first. For the simple fact of where he was located.
How many times was he shot?
Twice.
I thought they shot Maggie first because they could tell me they shot her in the back of the head.
What, he said he thought they shot Maggie first, or Maggie was shot first?
Alex said that he thought Maggie was shot first because she had been shot in the back of the head.
Go ahead.
We may honestly never know who was first, but I think it was Paul, for the simple fact he wouldn't have, if he saw his mother getting shot, he wouldn't have run to that feed ring. Unless that's where one of the guns was. But, you know, we've already established family guns were used. And if they came from Paul's truck was at the house. So where were they?
And how did they get down there?
And how did they get down there?
Did you just ask him, we've established family guns were used?
Yes, I did.
Objections overruled. Proceed.
What was his response?
Sorry.
Would nothing be the answer?
Correct.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's normal for y'all to leave your keys in the cars. However, if somebody showed up and did this, you're not going to take Paul's truck back to the house and leave the key in it.
I mean, do you,
Just right before that question, please.
And how did they get down there? You know, we've already established family guns were used. And if they came from Paul's truck was at the house. So where were they?
And how did they get down
And
there?
how did they get down there? I mean, it's normal for y'all to leave your keys in the cars. However, if somebody showed up and did this, you're not going to take Paul's truck back to the house and leave the key in it.
I mean, do you know that the guns were in the truck? I mean, could they have been somewhere else?
They could have been somewhere else. I mean, he didn't have his normal truck.
And I understand that Nolan Tootin believes he saw the gun 3 weeks beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't talked to him, but he believes it was the one that, not the one that was at the house.
I think it was a Benelli was his shotgun that he always kept, that Paul always kept with him.
Paul primarily he kept there were one of a couple of Benellis.
Yeah, it was a camo Benelli. Is the last one that Nolan saw.
Okay.
And HDD, some type of 7mm rifle.
Yes, sir.
Do you have that one at home?
Yes, sir. That's what he saw?
That's what he saw.
'Cause I was told by somebody that Nolan saw a 300.
He told me he had not seen a 300 since March after turkey season.
Okay, well, then somebody.
But those were the go-to guns, and those are the last ones that he saw.
The
He said he had,
HDD and the.
and Benelli. He had not seen the 300 since March during turkey season.
And he definitely saw it during turkey season?
Yes, sir.
because there was some point, back when it was missing at Christmas time.
The third one's missing at Christmas time?
Yes, sir. So, anyway, if you saw it in March.
Did y'all get any kind of forensic of anything that y'all found? Just the rain and the...
I mean, we got plenty of DNA from the scene, but
Yeah.
it's Nolan's, it's Rogan's, it's Alex, it's Paul's, it's Maggie's, it's Buster's.
Everybody's been...
Yeah.
David, can you tell me for sure? Did either one of them live after they were shot the first time?
Not long.
What's that?
The shooting happened very quickly. Very quickly.
Is this one person, two persons, three persons?
Is that the first time he's ever asked you that?
Yes, sir.
Ever?
That I recall, yes.
In the whole investigation at this point?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I got 2 guns. I got 2 different types of ammunition. It's hard to say. It is hard to say.
No, neither one of them suffered very long.
A matter of seconds, if that.
Thank you.
Have y'all been able to get anything involved from that might lead to anybody? Would it be? Let me ask you this question. It comes from Randy. Alec, I didn't talk to you about this, but it's okay. They got a lot of friends in the community. From the upper echelon to the lowest socioeconomic level. They think that they can ask people to keep ears out, loose lips, talking, that kind of stuff, but they don't want to reach out to anybody. Not purpose, unless y'all think it's okay. I'm not talking about paying people to do stuff,
Yeah.
investigators.
Yeah. Well, I've talked to Randy about this as well. He posed that question to me.
Right.
I'm not going to ask anybody in the law firm or anybody in the family, hey, go out and see what you can find and report back to me.
Sure.
Because then it can be construed as they're working as an agent of the state.
Sure.
And
I understand that completely. You don't even have to explain that. I understand it.
So, I told Randy, I said, I certainly can't stop you from going out. But I wouldn't ask them what they know and then report back to me. Tell them to call me. Tell them to call the tip line we have still set up. Or if you hear somebody talking about it, encourage them to call. Or give me the name and I'll go call.
I hear what you're saying.
So, David, we don't have not anything substantive that really makes you think, hey, this is a good...
Like I said, the only DNA we have are family and close friends. We don't have any fingerprints. We don't have, unfortunately, we don't have any shoe wear or tire wear impressions because it rained that night. The only thing that we can go off of are the cell tower dumps or I know the FBI was out, and they were out on your property on Friday riding around trying to get some cell phone data. Unfortunately, all of that takes time.
And y'all had to send because his vehicle's new, you had to send that off?
Yes, sir.
So it's not like when we hire experts, they come in and just download it.
It's 2021, and they don't have the systems for it yet.
Gotcha.
But they're working near creating a system, from what I understand.
Okay. Now, I don't know exactly how the OnStar thing works. I know how the control module works. But this is something different, right? Or is it all contained in the same thing?
There are two different systems that we took out.
Yeah.
One is OnStar, and the other one is the telemetry system or infotainment center.
Yeah.
And the FBI says there is information there.
Yeah.
They just have to be able to extract it and put it in a report.
Sure. Okay.
So
you're just waiting for that?
I'm waiting. I'm waiting on the search warrant from OnStar
Okay.
to see what kind of information they can give me.
Good.
There's,
You need if us signing something expedites that. I told you we'll
yeah,
get.
I
I don't own the car, but whoever we need to will sign whatever authorization you need.
So you had said that, or maybe Jim told me or something about y'all were able to get in Paul's phone just with a search warrant?
We have a what they call a partial download.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the passcode.
Sure.
We can't do a full extraction.
Do you think, so, my thought was that I don't know who's required to authorize Apple to open it.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was that big thing where they weren't going to do it
Yes,
for whatever case. But I thought that if we, I think Maggie owned the phone. I think it was in her name. The account was in her name.
Well, you have to have your own separate iCloud account for each phone, and we've done that for Maggie's, Paul's, and Alex.
Okay.
iCloud accounts.
Yeah.
To see if there's anything in there.
Yeah.
There was nothing in Paul's. I'm still waiting on Maggie's.
Maggie did back hers up
Mhm.
and stuff. I know that. So.
Does that mean Paul didn't back his up?
Probably.
But what my thought was, and I don't know if this is even possible, but if we get the estate and we get the personal representative who is now the authorized person to authorize it to be opened. I mean, surrounded by 100 lawyers, we get a probate done like that, and I can have the powers of appointment done in 2 days, and we can authorize whatever it is you need to open.
And that might be beneficial.
So
I think Randy and I, or somebody and I have talked about that
Yeah.
before.
yeah, well, and I said I'd do it. Any of us could do it.
Who would be the representative? Just somebody at the law firm.
Probably one of your brothers, I would think.
For Maggie and Paul's estate,
Yeah.
probably me or
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
one
I'll
of my
do
brothers.
it.
But whoever it is, it doesn't matter. Whoever it
Yeah.
is will do whatever
Yeah.
y'all need to do to. No, it won't be anybody that'll be uncooperative.
Okay. Well, if y'all would go ahead and start working on that,
All right.
then we'll reach out to Apple and figure out how we get that accomplished.
All right, because gotta be something there.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta be something there. I can't think of anything else. Have y'all had to track down all the wackos on the internet? Or just only the ones that you think seem a little more, not the opportunity and the inclination,
There's been a few that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
But some of the information is just so far-fetched. I talked with one guy. He called in and says, well, I knew that Maggie's son bought a house right around the corner. I'm like, okay, well, no, they didn't.
Yeah.
That Maggie had left her husband some time ago and was going to move to Florida to be closer to her father because mother was dead. And I'm like, okay, thank you, God.
So it's a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, people that want to get involved.
Yeah.
People that think they have some information. Especially the manner of death. They're all over the place.
Well, I mean, y'all been taking a licking in the press about not disclosing stuff, but Jesus Christ, man.
I don't have anything to disclose.
Well, and why are you going to tell the bad guy what you got?
Thank you.
I mean, I just don't understand it. I mean, look.
Nobody wants to know more than this man right here and this man right here.
I know.
Everybody else.
I believe that.
Everybody else.
David, how far apart in time were the shot? And did one of them know the other one was dead or had been shot?
I think it's impossible to answer that question. I think it is impossible.
But you certain Paul was shot first?
I believe he was. I'm not certain. I believe he was.
Maggie would have known that then, wouldn't she? You don't know how soon afterwards she was shot?
And it all depends on how many shooters were there. I mean, if we're looking at two shooters, it could have happened at the same time. If we're looking at one shooter, it would have happened. And I know you can't help but think about it, but don't beat yourself up over getting that answer. It's not going to do anything to you.
When I asked you, now that you talked to me, are you willing to, if some of my family, Maggie's mom and dad or sister, are you willing to talk to them?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I'll meet them where they want to.
It would be easy if you could meet them closer to them.
Yeah. I mean, I live in Charleston, so it's nothing for me to shoot up to Somerville and meet with the Brandsetters.
Thank you. I know y'all are doing everything you can. And I don't take any personal offense at asking me these questions. I know you got to do what you got to do.
Well, I mean, and I hate to give any credence to the media, but with the media keep throwing you in there, then
you gotta ask the questions.
If I can get every bit of evidence possible, that's going to exonerate.
When you get my car stuff, that'll help.
Al, you said earlier Maggie didn't like staying out there by herself.
Yes, sir.
Was there any kind of, I know we asked you once before in one of the earlier interviews about cameras, and have y'all talked about doing any kind of camera system out there, stuff getting missing, Maggie talking about stuff getting missing? We're hearing that type of stuff, so.
We never really had problems with stuff missing, but we still talked about getting, cameras and, doing all of that, but we just hadn't done it. We talked about it for a while.
But not really any conversation about stuff up and walking away or getting missing between you and Maggie.
Any conversations between me and Maggie about stuff?
You and Maggie, or you and Paul, either one, about stuff that had been missing, or had somebody came up and taken from the barn or from the house or anything like that?
Only thing that I can remember being discussed missing was some drills and some Milwaukee tools.
How long ago was that?
it was since CB got hired, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Because that was one of the things Paul, when he was looking for him, was going to ask CB. And I'd had a boy working out there for just a short period named Matt Luce. Is that the first time you've heard his name?
The last name, yeah. I've heard that there was Matt.
Matt Luce. I think it's spelled Luce.
And he basically did what CB does now?
No,
Or something?
he came in and was, just trying to, because I didn't have anybody working out there, just to kind of keep things from getting totally out of control. He came in and, he does that for another friend, works with another friend, and he's just kind of coming in to help me, probably I believe he probably would have been there in the late fall, probably, I'm guessing.
Is he from Hampton or Multibro?
He's from Beaufort, I believe, originally, but he lives up in, he lives between Beaufort and, I'm trying to think of the name of the plantation that my friend Barrett Bowler has. That's who he works for.
Barrett Bowler.
Yeah, Junior.
Yeah, I spelled it.
It's Bowler is how it looks.
B-O-U-R-E.
Ken, the Tom Bowler,
Tom Bowler. Yes, sir. He was like one of my granddaddy's contemporaries, and now there's a Tom Bowler that's kind of just retired, and they are. I think that's they're kin, but not super close.
How old is Matt? Ish.
I'd say he's 35, like that. Maybe.
Do you still have his number?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have his number in my phone.
Yeah.
I don't even have it, but I can get it.
Where'd you go?
I had to step out and use the restroom.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
the guy that sent it to me will have it. Can you think of anything else you want to ask questions about? All right. Off the top of my head.
The pair of guns that you bought for the Christmas presents, they were matching set, correct, other than color. Am I right about that?
Yes, sir. They were exactly the same.
With thermal night vision and stuff like that. The one that you purchased to replace the lost one, did it have any kind of optics on it? Night vision, scope, anything like that?
It doesn't have a night vision scope. And I don't know if Paul had put something on it. He would move scopes around from gun to gun to gun, but I'm not. Oh.
Then we're going to break for lunch. Turn at 2:20.